67 veterinary clinics across 9 states, all licensed, all treating real animals. Every dog vaccinated, every cat spayed, every owner satisfied. 5-star reviews online. Industry accreditation maintained, but ketamine orders ran at quantities designed for zoo elephants. Patient records showed only household pets. The math didn't work unless something else was being treated, and that something wasn't animals. DEA analyst Karen Morrison noticed the discrepancy in March 2024. Routine review of controlled substance orders by veterinary practices. Standard compliance monitoring. Every clinic that orders scheduled drugs must report to DEA. Quantities must align with practice size and patient volume. Morrison reviewed quarterly reports for Southwestern region. Most clinics showed predictable patterns. Small practices ordered minimal amounts. Large animal hospitals ordered more. Emergency clinics had higher usage. The numbers made sense until she saw CompassionCare Veterinary Services. The clinic listed 3 veterinarians. Patient records indicated average census. 40 animals daily. Standard small animal practice, dogs, cats, occasional exotic pets. But their ketamine orders were massive. 400 vials quarterly. Industry standard for that size practice, 12 to 15 vials. That's when routine compliance review became criminal investigation. Morrison cross-referenced CompassionCare with ownership records. The clinic was part of a larger network, PetWellness Holdings, LLC. The holding company owned 67 veterinary clinics across 9 states, all purchased between 2020 and 2023. Total acquisition cost, $200 million. The company appeared legitimate. Veterinary Management Group, professional administration. Nothing unusual on paper. But Morrison checked controlled substance orders for all 67 clinics. The pattern was universal. Every clinic ordered ketamine, fentanyl precursors, and tramadol in quantities far exceeding patient needs. Combined quarterly orders, 12,000 vials of ketamine, 8,000 units of veterinary-grade opioids. Legitimate medical use for their combined patient volume, approximately 800 vials and 200 units. The numbers didn't behave like medical practice, they behaved like distribution network. Morrison escalated to DEA enforcement. Special Agent Thomas Rivera took the case. The allegations seemed almost absurd. Veterinary clinics diverting drugs. For what purpose? Veterinary pharmaceuticals are regulated, but not as tightly as human medicine. The drugs are similar. Ketamine is ketamine. Fentanyl derivatives are fentanyl derivatives. The chemical composition doesn't change because it's labeled for animal use. But there's a reason for separate veterinary markets. Oversight is less intensive. Ordering limits are more flexible. A veterinarian treating large animals might legitimately need substantial quantities. Nobody questions an equine practice ordering ketamine for horse surgeries. That gap creates opportunity. Order veterinary-grade drugs legitimately. Divert them to human drug manufacturing. The supply chain bypasses human pharmaceutical controls entirely. Rivera initiated investigation. Financial analysis of PetWellness Holdings revealed concerning structure. The company was funded through offshore accounts. Ownership traced to shell companies in Cayman Islands and Panama. Beneficial owners couldn't be determined from public records. That wasn't illegal, but it was suspicious. Legitimate veterinary chains usually had transparent ownership. Investors, private equity, families, not anonymous offshore entities. The clinic operations appeared normal. Real veterinarians, real staff, real animals treated. Customer satisfaction was genuine. Online reviews praised the care. Prices were competitive. Facilities were clean. Nothing suggested criminal activity to casual observers. But beneath the legitimate surface, a parallel operation was functioning. Undercover operation began. DEA placed an agent as inventory manager at one of the clinics. Role: tracking pharmaceutical orders and usage. The agent, posing as Sarah Chen, applied through normal hiring process. Background check performed. References verified. She was hired. Started work May 2024. Chen's observations were revealing. The clinic treated animals normally during operating hours, but pharmaceutical orders arrived in quantities far exceeding usage. She documented discrepancies. Ketamine vials ordered 80 monthly. Ketamine vials used for procedures, 6 to 8 monthly. Disposal records showed minimal waste. Where were the other 70 vials going? She tracked shipments. Medical supply deliveries came through standard channels. But once weekly, a different delivery occurred. Unmarked van, no company logo. Arrived after hours. The clinic's office manager, David Torres, personally handled these deliveries. He brought the supplies into a back storage room. That room was always locked. Chen didn't have access. Only Torres and the head veterinarian had keys. Chen reported observations. Rivera obtained warrant for surveillance. Agents installed cameras covering the back entrance. 2 weeks of footage provided clarity. The unmarked van arrived every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. 2 individuals unloaded boxes. Torres signed paperwork. The van departed. Torres brought boxes into locked storage. 15 minutes later, he exited carrying different boxes. Loaded them into his personal vehicle. Drove away. Surveillance followed Torres. He drove to a warehouse in Industrial District. Entered. Stayed 12 minutes. Exited empty-handed. Returned to clinic. Next morning, the locked storage room would be empty again. The cycle repeated weekly. The warehouse was registered to a shell company with cartel connections. That confirmed it. The veterinary clinic was a diversion point. Legitimate pharmaceutical orders came in. Product was redirected. Some went to actual animal care. Most went to the warehouse. From there, it entered the drug manufacturing pipeline. Rivera expanded investigation to all 67 clinics. Surveillance revealed similar patterns. Not every clinic was involved equally. 43 showed active diversion. 24 appeared to be operating legitimately, possibly acquired for future use or as cover within the larger network. The operation was distributed. That made interdiction complex. If you believe corrupting veterinary care to supply drug manufacturers deserves federal charges, type accountability below. DEA analysis estimated volume. 43 clinics, each diverting approximately 70 vials of ketamine monthly. That's 3,000 vials monthly, 36,000 annually. Veterinary-grade ketamine is nearly identical to pharmaceutical grade. It enters illicit markets as club drugs, or it's processed into other substances. Street value, approximately $18 million annually. But ketamine was only part of the operation. The clinics also diverted fentanyl analogs. Veterinary medicine uses fentanyl-class drugs for large animal anesthesia. They're potent, dangerous, and perfect for illicit fentanyl production. The clinics ordered carfentanil and remifentanil. Both are fentanyl derivatives. Both are scheduled substances. Both are lethal in tiny quantities. Combined diversion, approximately 12,000 units of fentanyl-class drugs annually. That quantity could produce several tons of street fentanyl after processing. The clinics weren't just diverting recreational drugs. They were supplying precursors for mass overdose events. The operation's sophistication was notable. Veterinarians running the clinics were licensed professionals. Most didn't know about the diversion. They treated animals, saw patients, performed surgeries. The inventory managers handled pharmaceutical ordering and management. Those positions were filled by cartel operatives, placed through controlled hiring. The veterinarians trusted their staff, had no reason to audit drug usage closely. That trust was exploited. Financial inducement was significant. Inventory managers earned standard salaries plus bonuses. Those bonuses came from the diversion operation, $5,000 per month extra, $60,000 annually on top of legitimate pay. For managing shipments and documentation, minimal risk from their perspective. The drugs were legally ordered. The clinics had proper licenses. If caught, they could claim record-keeping errors, plausible deniability. But the legal exposure was severe. Diverting controlled substances carried mandatory minimum sentences. Conspiracy to manufacture carried enhanced penalties, and the quantity involved meant decades in federal prison. The participants didn't fully understand their risk, or they rationalized it. The money was immediate. The consequences felt abstract. Rivera coordinated with FBI, ATF, and state veterinary boards. The takedown required simultaneous action. 43 clinics actively diverting, 24 more potentially involved. Hitting one location would warn others, evidence would disappear, records would be destroyed. The operation needed to strike all locations at once. Planning took 3 months. Each clinic needed a tactical team. Warrants had to be synchronized across 9 states. Legal coordination with state regulators. Veterinary boards needed to be prepared to suspend licenses immediately. The animals currently in care at the clinics needed emergency placement plans. Couldn't raid facilities and leave animals without care. Strike date, August 8, 2024. Thursday, 6:00 a.m. Before clinics opened. After any overnight emergencies cleared, federal agents deployed, veterinary board inspectors accompanied, animal control on standby. At 6 a.m., all 67 locations were breached simultaneously. Federal agents, DEA search warrants. Staff arriving for work were detained. Office managers arrested. Head veterinarians questioned. The clinics were secured. No disruptions to animals in overnight care. Veterinary board inspectors assessed animals. All were healthy. Care had been legitimate. The diversion operation hadn't compromised animal welfare. That was strategic. Abuse would draw attention. Quality care provided cover. Searches revealed extensive documentation, pharmaceutical order records, diversion schedules, payment ledgers, communication logs between inventory managers and coordinators. The operation was well organized, professional, but the records were preserved. Digital and physical, everything seized. Locked storage rooms were opened, most were empty. Shipments had occurred the night before raids in many locations, but 3 clinics had inventory, boxes of ketamine vials, fentanyl analog bottles, veterinary grade but destined for human drug markets. The quantities confirmed diversion scale. 1 clinic had 400 vials stored, far beyond any legitimate veterinary need. Arrests totaled 134. Office managers, inventory staff, clinic administrators, warehouse operators, transport drivers, everyone involved in the diversion chain. The veterinarians who were aware faced charges. Most weren't. They were shocked. Their clinics had been infiltrated, their licenses exploited, their trust violated. Dr. Sarah Williams ran a clinic in Phoenix. 20 years in practice, loved animals, trusted her staff. When agents told her about the diversion, she didn't believe it. Insisted her office manager, John Martinez, was honest, dedicated. But evidence showed Martinez had diverted 6,000 vials over 2 years. Williams had never checked inventory against usage. She prescribed what animals needed, trusted her staff to maintain supplies. That trust was weaponized. Federal prosecutors filed charges. Office managers who ran diversion operations faced 25 to 40 years. Conspiracy to distribute, diversion of controlled substances, money laundering. The sentences reflected quantity. 12,000 units of fentanyl-class drugs represented massive harm potential. Courts showed no leniency. Veterinarians who participated knowingly faced similar sentences. But most veterinarians were cleared. They were victims of infiltration. Their practices were compromised without their knowledge. Veterinary boards reviewed licenses. Those who exercised proper oversight kept credentials. Those who failed to monitor inventory faced administrative penalties, license suspensions, mandatory training, enhanced reporting requirements. PetWellness Holdings was dismantled. All 67 clinics were shuttered temporarily. State veterinary boards appointed interim management. The clinics were audited, financial records reviewed. Those that had operated legitimately were returned to operation under new management. Those compromised beyond repair were closed permanently. The animals transferred to other providers. Asset forfeiture totaled $300 million. The clinics, equipment, real estate, bank accounts, everything connected to PetWellness Holdings. The offshore companies were sanctioned. Ownership traced through international cooperation. Funds recovered from foreign accounts. The financial network was dismantled. The human cost was difficult to calculate. The diverted drugs entered manufacturing pipelines, became street fentanyl, ketamine for clubs. The 12,000 units of fentanyl analogs could produce tons of final product. Each ton kills thousands. The mathematics of harm extended far beyond the clinics. The deaths occurred downstream. Users who never knew their drugs originated from veterinary supply chains. Investigation revealed industry vulnerabilities. Veterinary pharmaceutical oversight was insufficient. Clinics self-reported usage. Audits were rare. Nobody verified that ordered quantities matched actual medical need. The system relied on professional integrity. That worked until criminals targeted it. Systematic infiltration, strategic acquisition, professional exploitation. Reforms followed. New requirements for veterinary practices ordering controlled substances. Mandatory usage audits. Quarterly reporting with verification. Cross-referencing patient census with pharmaceutical orders. Random inspections. The regulations that failed were rebuilt, but implementation would take years, and the changes only applied to states that adopted new standards. Federal analysis examined veterinary acquisitions nationwide, looking for similar patterns. Offshore ownership, excessive pharmaceutical orders, recently purchased clinics with unusual inventory patterns. The review identified 93 additional practices worth investigating, some legitimate, some potentially compromised. The inquiries continue. This case proved that criminals target regulatory gaps. Veterinary medicine is regulated, but differently than human medicine. That difference creates space for exploitation. Order veterinary-grade drugs legally. Divert to human markets. Bypass traditional pharmaceutical controls. The strategy worked for years because nobody expected it. Subscribe for investigations exposing pharmaceutical diversion networks. Share if you believe veterinary oversight must be enhanced. Like if corrupting animal care for drug manufacturing demands accountability. This scheme worked too well, which means similar operations likely exist. How many other veterinary clinics are ordering drugs they don't need? How many offshore holding companies own practices they're exploiting? Stay vigilant.